Hello everyone and welcome to a new bite-sized series on the WDSportz channel. I'm Tom Parker and I'm going to be taking you through the European Roundup of this weekend's action. We're going to be covering Serie A, La Liga and the Bundesliga as we look to the other leagues to see what happens in those. So, I hope you enjoyed this first episode. If you enjoyed the series, drop a like, drop a comment on other videos that you might want to see as well. Make sure to subscribe to WDSportz as well for more content just like this. But let's get into the episode. So we'll start off in La Liga, and we're going to be mainly talking about the top four for most of these leagues because that's what most of us are interested in, really. And we're going to start with Atletico Madrid, who are absolutely smashing it at the moment. Top of La Liga, 50 points, 10 points clear of second place Barcelona, and they won 4-2 against Cadiz. Luis Suarez getting a brace. He remains the top goal scorer in the league this season. I mean, what a signing from Barcelona. He's been absolutely superb. And two really good finishes as well. One from the penalty spot. And he's really been sort of a leader for them. The other two goals were from Saúl Ñíguez and Koke as well. So a really, really emphatic win for the team that are probably, favourites to win La Liga at this point. They've really sort of had a resurgence this season. They've been really, really strong. They've looked very, very good. And they definitely look competitors for the Champions League as well, which is a massive plus for them. Those two goals conceded was, to be honest, quite rare because from 19 games this season, they've only conceded 10 goals. And they've actually scored 40, which sort of goes against the grain of a normal Diego Simeone team. You expect them to be tight defensively, not score many going forward, but they've really sort of changed that. They've had problems with the striker position over the past couple of seasons, and Luis Suarez has really helped remedy that, and you can see the benefits of that this season. Now, obviously, the two sort of main titans of the Liga are locked head-to-head at the moment. Barcelona and Real Madrid both tied on 40 points at this moment in time in La Liga, and both of them aren't letting up either. Barcelona, they got a decent 2-1 win over Athletic Bilbao. Lionel Messi getting his 650th career goal with a really, really good free kick. And then Antoine Griezmann also getting a goal to seal the win. So, pretty good performance from Barcelona. After a really rough start, Ronald Koeman has definitely got his side playing. And they're improving, and they're actually playing well. Frenkie de Jong has been absolutely superb for them in recent games. And he really looks to sort of step up and repay some of that price tag that they paid for him. So, it'll be interesting to see how Barcelona get on from this point. I think that they'd certainly look a team that are going to be able to compete. If Atleti drop a few points, Barcelona could easily steal in and compete for the title. Then Real Madrid played the day before both of these sides, and they actually lost 2-1 to Levante. And there's been plenty of rumours about Sergio Ramos wanting to leave at the moment. But yeah, really, really poor performance from Real Madrid. Not one that you would usually accredit them to, but in recent seasons they have struggled, and it didn't help that Militao got sent off within 10 minutes. So, a really rough time. Apparently the board are really sort of doubting whether Zidane can get the job done. I think a lot of fans are as well. Although, let's be honest, Real Madrid, they've got a bit of an entitled fan base as it is. But, it's with results that are happening at the moment, you can see why that they're not happy with the results that they're getting. Sevilla are also continuing their push for top four and Champions League football after another impressive stint in the Europa League last season. And they beat Eibar by 2-0 and some really, really brilliant attacking play in this one. I think that one of the goals was trending on Twitter for the amount of passes that they actually made before the goal went in. And some very, very impressive play from them. They've looked good this season. I think them and Villarreal, under Unai Emery, of course, have looked impressive. But in recent weeks, Villarreal, I think, have drawn their last 3 games. So they're sort of starting to drop off a little bit. At the same time, you sort of look at them and think that those two sides are probably the two sides that are going to be competing for the top 4 places. Now, if we look at Real Sociedad, for example, they're in 6th. They've had similar problems that they did last season. They were competing for the title in the earlier stages last season as well, but sort of dropped off towards the latter, or sort of the midway point, and then they couldn't really gather the momentum back up. And the same thing has happened this year. 4 games without a win now, 3 draws and a defeat. Not fantastic. They're on 32 points, so they're still 7 points off Sevilla, who are on 39. But yeah, it's a rough time for them at the moment. And it'll be interesting to see if they can pick it back up. Because, of course, they do have a decent team. David Silva's performed very well there. Porto as well. They do have a very decent side. But whether they can actually sort of get into that top 4 and get into Champions League football and push on from the Europa League stages, we'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be an interesting run-in for that top 4. Right, if we move on from Spain and we'll go to Italy, where things are really, really hotting up, and they have done in recent weeks. AC Milan looked like they were going to really sort of run away with it this season, but Inter Milan have really pegged them back. 2 points behind them now. Juventus in 4th on 39, so they're sort of a little bit off the pace. But of course, there was that huge derby. AC Milan playing out against Inter Milan, the game of all games in Italy. Really, really impressive. And that was on the 26th, so a little bit further back. But obviously, in terms of the context of the title race, it was massively important. And Inter Milan winning that 2-1, only the second defeat of the season for AC Milan. They bounced back. They since beat Bologna 2-1. But, you know, that defeat is really damaging. Particularly the whole sort of bust-up between Ibrahimovic and Lukaku. Some of the things said were a little bit controversial, shall we say. But, you know, it's part of football. You want to see rivalries. You don't want to see everyone just hugging and kissing all the time, and that's, you know, it's a proper derby as well, so it's good to see a bit of passion going into those games as well. Both of the sides are on a little bit of patchy form though. I mean, they've won, Inter Milan have won 2 of their last 5, with the other 2 being draws and a 1 defeat, and then AC Milan have won 3 out of their last 5, but they only have 2 defeats. So it's really up in air about who's going to win. Roma and Juventus are sort of carrying the way for the chasing pack. Roma obviously in 3rd, having a very, very good season. They're on 40 points, so they're actually 6 points off top, which, to be honest, is very impressive. Last season they were sort of in and around the 5th, 6th position, and they were fighting for the Champions League. But this season they've really sort of picked it up, and they're really looking impressive. There's some very good players in that Roma side. Of course, Henrik Mkhitaryan, out of nowhere. Who remembers that name? He's been absolutely brilliant for them so far. 10 goals and 9 assists. Has really, really shown his worth, and he's proved to himself to be a really, really valuable player, especially in a competitive league as well. Boya Mayoral as well, 9 goals for him. Jordan Veretout, former Aston Villa player, 8 goals and 3 assists. He's really, really improved his career since moving over to Serie A. And yeah, do you know what? It's a good, solid Roma team. I wouldn't be surprised to see them really push Inter and AC this year, particularly with the form that some of their players are on. Now the question is, can they keep that form up? They don't quite have the same amount of quality as the teams above them, but they certainly have enough to be able to push themselves going forward. Now if we move on to probably one of the more formed teams in the top 4, Juventus won 4 of their last 5. They've only lost 1. They're actually in some very good form. Under Andrea Pirlo this season, of course, they have looked inconsistent at times. Ronaldo has definitely been the saving grace for them on plenty of occasions. I mean, the guy's just ridiculous. And just looking at his stats here, in terms of these top scorers, 19 goals and 4 assists. I mean, the guy just keeps doing it, really. Even at his age of, 35? Yeah, he's still going strong. Unbelievable athlete. And he's really sort of keeping them up in contention. I mean, Alvaro Morata as well, 10 goals, 7 assists. He's getting in. Chiesa, Weston McKennie as well. It's good to see that Juventus sort of going, I guess, in a new direction. I hope Pirlo is able to get some success from them. I did do a video on my personal channel about him joining, and I was very excited to see him as Juventus manager, and at the moment he seems to be doing okay. 4th position is obviously not great for Juventus, but in his first season is his first season in management, I think that it's definitely, you know, there's room to build on. And with the form that he's got Ronaldo in, that's only a good sign. You know, as a Juventus manager, that your main aim is to really get the best out of Ronaldo and then try and work the team around him and get other players to get into form. And Ronaldo is one of those players that just elevates people around him. So if you can get him firing on all cylinders, then you can definitely get the team firing. And that's what they're doing at the moment. And over the weekend, they beat Sampdoria by 2-0. Of course, Chiesa and Aaron Ramsey getting a rare goal. And it was a pretty solid, all in all, a pretty solid win. It was pretty routine, professional performance. It's what you expect. They have knocked a few goals in recent weeks. Spals, particularly when they won 4-0. I mean, Inter Milan have been spanking them in as well. They beat Benevento 4-0 this weekend. So it's really a sort of competitive season this season in Serie A, which is not what we can say very often. I think there's been definitely some differences and changes this year with no fans, COVID. Certain teams have sort of stepped up and others have sort of dropped off. So it really depends on who the team is. I mean, AC Milan, who could have predicted them to do as well as they're doing this season? So it really is a sort of, I mean, you don't even know what's going to happen this season. It's very much a mix. Another team with good potential, which played this weekend, I want to bring your attention to because they're in absolutely amazing form at the moment. And that is Lazio, who have won 5 of their last 5 in the league. They actually lost. They got knocked out of the cup by Atalanta recently, but they beat them again in the league, 3-1. And it was a pretty impressive performance all around. Lazio are one of those teams that they were always sort of the outside hope maybe. They really pushed for the title this season. They had a poor start to the campaign this year, but their form recently has really put them back into contention for fighting for those Champions League places. They're on 37 points at the moment, of course only 2 points behind Juventus, so there is a real possibility that if Juventus sort of drop off a bit of form, that Lazio and Napoli could really sort of push them. Of course, Napoli managed by Gattuso, who has done a pretty good job, I'd have to say, with Napoli so far. And yeah, it's exciting times in Serie A. Atalanta on 36 as well. The race for the Champions League is very hot at the moment, and the race for the title is very much on as well. So, definitely a league to watch out on. If there is a league to watch at the moment, Serie A is the one. Right, let's move on to our final bite-sized league for tonight. We are going to be talking about the German Bundesliga. And of course, Bayern Munich are top of that at the moment. The monopoly is looking to continue, and to be fair to them, they've been in brilliant form. They didn't start the season off particularly well. It's pretty much a carbon copy of last season's campaign, where Leipzig, Mönchengladbach were obviously top around sort of late December time last year. They're not doing so well this year, but they were very much, a lot of teams in and around that sort of hallmark of Leipzig, Dortmund, that were competing for the title. And Bayern Munich brought it back second half of the season with Hansi Flick and had an unbelievable run of form, as we all know. Won the Champions League, won the league, and won the DFB Pokal as well. So yeah, and they've continued that form into this season. Yet again though, very similar theme, like I said. Started off the season poorly. Leipzig were definitely the team leading the race for the title. They were looking good and they were looking strong going forward. But all of a sudden, Bayern Munich have just absolutely come back. They've scored 8 goals in their last 2 games. They beat Schalke 4-0 and they beat Hoffenheim 4-1. So it's definitely been an upturn in form for them. They sit top of the league as usual with 45 points, 7 clear of Leipzig in second. Leipzig again, they're the same problems as last season, drawing too many games and just not being able to hold on to leads maybe. And I think that's been the biggest issue. I think another issue has been just a lack of stepping up when it really matters. I think that there's certain points, particularly when you look back to maybe the 9th of January when they played Dortmund. Really big game for them, losing 3-1. And they did that several times last season where you've got a big game, the pressure's on and they lose. I mean, they lost to Mainz as well. They beat Bayer Leverkusen on Saturday, which was a good result for them, to be fair. Bayer Leverkusen are a very decent team, sitting in 5th at the moment. You do have to sort of wonder, when are Leipzig really going to start to push and be genuine title contenders? And I think that whilst they have a young squad, it might not necessarily work because the naivety comes into play there. But they did get a solid win and back on track. But those 5 draws could be really damaging, and it was the same thing last season. Far too many draws towards the end of the season, which essentially handed the title to Bayern Munich. Same problem with Borussia Dortmund as well. Of course, things haven't really gone that well for them this season. They sit in 6th, and they've struggled really ever since, even when they sacked Lucien Favre, who, to be fair, wasn't doing the best of jobs. They just have struggled to get anything going. 7 defeats already this season. They're struggling for consistency. Defensively, they still have the same issues that plagued them last campaign. They've scored 38, but they've conceded 27, which is there's only one more than Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich have scored 57 goals. So they can afford to concede those because they score far more. And I think that's the problem with Borussia Dortmund. There's just defensive problems that need to be stamped out there. And they haven't stamped them out yet, so they really need to get those sort of cleaned up if they want to be able to compete for the title, because they can't keep making the same mistakes they had when Lucien Favre was manager. This is why I wanted Pochettino. I thought Pochettino would be a fantastic manager for them, although he just recently lost his first game for PSG against Lorient, so maybe he wouldn't have been the best of fits. We never know. But at the moment there is serious issues plaguing them at the moment defensively, and they need to sort them out. 2 teams that have really performed well though this season is Volsberg and Frankfurt. Frankfurt were awful last season. I remember watching them after the return of lockdown, when I was really sort of following the Bundesliga throughout most of that campaign. And they were just so poor. They couldn't get anything going forward. Defensively, they looked a mess. But this season, they've really turned it on. And the loan signing of Luka Jovic has helped massively. He's been superb for them in recent games. Real welcome addition back to the club, particularly how well he did in his first stint. I mean, he already has 3 goals in 4 games. Andre Silva, out of nowhere, by the way, it's completely exploded. 16 goals and 2 assists in 18 games this season. Unbelievable return for a player that has been lacking confidence for quite a few seasons now. He's really picked it up in recent months, and he's had a superb season so far. And to be honest, I don't know where this has come from, because he's been really average. He was very poor last season. Didn't really get the goal contributions he's wanted, but maybe this is his time to step up. Maybe he can get a bit of form. The Bundesliga is one of those leagues where any player can shoot out of nowhere. Bastos sticks out to mind as well. This is the sort of league where things like that can happen. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on Frankfurt. Very exciting team. But on the note of Wolfsburg, another team that were sort of in and around the Europa League places last season, but it sort of petered out for them. They've been really impressive. I mean, Wout Weghorst, a player that last season struggled he didn't struggle for goals, but he was never a striker that you would associate with 15-20 goals. But he's on 13 at the moment in 19, so he's very much on course to hit that 15 to 20 goal margin. And over the weekend, they beat Freiburg by 3-0. Very impressive result for them. And, it sort of solidifies their shout for Champions League places, because at the moment they really have sort of shown the capability to do that. Now, they are very much a low-scoring side. They've got the lowest amount of goals in the top 6. They've only scored 30. However, they have conceded 19, which is the joint lowest, along with RB Leipzig, who've conceded only 17 goals. So yeah, it's looking promising for them. If they can keep that form up for most of the season, they'll definitely finish Champions League, which is a competition that they haven't competed in for quite some time. So yeah, I would definitely be interested to see how Wolfsburg do, so definitely keep an eye on them as well. So that is you brought up to date with all the latest goings on from around the top leagues from Europe. If you want any more leagues being covered, let me know. I'm more than happy to cover Liga, or the Portuguese Liga NOS, or the J-League, or just any league in general, really. Normally I do cover the Premier League, but so many people cover the Premier League nowadays. I thought, let's just focus on Europe. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. Drop any leagues or video ideas in the comments below, and I will do them. So make sure to leave a comment, because I will read them and I will look at your suggestions. But until then, stay safe everyone, and I hope to see you in the next one.